Hey, it's Jeremy from LATT SEO. In this video, I'm walking through an audit of how I would optimize a page of content for industrial air compressors and going through the exact step-by-step process for keyword research, optimization strategy, and building and getting this content onto an individual page so you have a better chance to rank for a keyword like this. And this is the exact step-by-step strategy you can use for any keyword or phrase for any category or topic on your site as well. So the first thing I would do is look at the keyword itself, and I've already done that, but the initial part would be determining your products or product categories and what needs to go into the page itself in terms of content for keywords, questions, optimization structure, things like that. So the first part of this would be figuring that out, but you already have that because you have a brand that likely sells these products or these products from these categories. So the next thing then would be to determine related categories. So I went and picked just 5 top categories, and the point of these will be for using these to add internal links onto the page itself. And I'll get to how that works and the benefit and the value of that here in a couple minutes. So next thing to do then, I would go to NEURONwriter, and I use this quite a bit, to add in the keyword or phrase, so industrial air compressors in this case. And what it does then is gives us a list of the top ranking websites for this key phrase. And it looks at how long their content is, the optimization structure they have on their site in terms of H1 tags, H2 tags, H3s, keywords, optimization factors, all of those elements, and gives us an idea as to the average we need to have on our site so that we can be best optimized and have the best chance of ranking in both organic search and in AI. Now, the next thing then, after you get into this specific area, is figuring out what content needs to go on this page and how this page needs to be optimized. And there are a number of different ways you can do this. One would be to use this information here in the upper right to get an idea of how long the content needs to be. You can see here 1,462 words of content is the expected range of word length on the page. And you can see as you hover this, top 10 median is 1462. The 10 URLs selected from the top 30 is 4,582. So somewhere in that range would likely be more than sufficient. And a lot of times this number here is skewed because there are some sites that have 0 content that is pulled and other sites have multiple thousands of words of content. So generally speaking, what I recommend here from a content perspective is get enough content on the page where you can thoroughly explain the category and have enough information where you can add internal links to your related categories or products as well. Now, all that being said, there are, again, a few different ways you could build this content. And I'll just take a couple notes here. So the ways to build content. Number one would be 100% manually. So you just build the content on your site, and this is how it was largely done before, and some companies still do it this way, and that is fine. Secondly would be AI outline plus manual content. And what I mean there is you can use something like NEURONwriter or ChatGPT or any AI tool you want to build an outline of the topics that you want to write for. So a prompt would be something like this: build an outline for an article about industrial air compressors. And you can be as general or specific as possible. As you probably know, the more specific you are with your prompts, the better the output is likely going to be. So in this case, if you were to use this structure for building an outline to get you content, what I would recommend is looking at the recommended headings, the H1s, H2s, and then also the keywords and phrases that need to go into this content here, and optimize this or give this information to your language model so that it can give you an outline to sufficiently produce this piece of content. So I'll just show you this, might as well. Build an outline for an article about industrial air compressors. H1 should include, as relevant, these keywords, phrases. It should be targeted to rank for industrial air compressors. H2s, H3s to use within the outline. Use these so they make sense and are also helpful for the article to rank, search, and AI. And I'm reading the prompt as I'm typing it here, but this is the prompt here. And this would be a very similar prompt that we would use also for the article creation, which I'll actually show you that as well. So now what I have here is build an outline for an article about industrial air compressors. H1, and sometimes the H1, what I would actually do is just use H1 as the primary category. So in that case, actually, let's do that. So I will delete this. We don't need to deal with the H1. So H1 should be industrial air compressors, because the point of this page would likely be to be optimized for your products in that category, the industrial air compressors category. So we don't need to get fancy here. We need to be descriptive and make it easy for any of the algorithms to understand what the page is about. H2s, H3s then to use within the outline. And then if we go to Neuron again, article, and here are the keywords and phrases to use within the content. Build these into the outline sections so I know what content to create. I am going to share the keyword, phrase, and the expected number of times it should be used. And this is probably not super relevant for building an outline because you would be understanding this and doing this as you're writing the content. But let's just say, build me an article outline so I can write the content manually. And what will happen here then is we get the outline, and you can see here, this is the H1. It gives us recommended H2s to use. And sometimes these are not that great. Introduction to industrial air compressors, I think that's a little bit unnecessary. I would rather have something that's optimized slightly better than that. But this is part of the process of going through this and using AI for some of these processes. So now this gives you an outline that you could either give to your writer or give to somebody on your team and say, okay, produce this content so we can add this to the site. Now let's take this to the next step. And what I will do here is, instead of building an outline, we'll build the full article, but we'll add in a couple of different elements that really help with rankings to improve not only this page, but other categories on the site and potentially other products, and also helps you rank in AI. So first thing to do here is basically copy that same, we have all that data already. So we need an outline. So now we need a full article about industrial air compressors. And for verification, we need about 1,500 words. The content length should be 1,500 words. H1 should be this. H2s, H3s. Use these so they make sense and are helpful for the article to rank in search and AI. That's good there. And then we have the keywords and phrases to use within the content. Build these, but we don't need an outline now. So use these throughout the content to effectively describe the category and make it easier for this content to rank in both organic search and AI. All right, and then next thing to do would be, because we're just doing this as a test site, I will just include, this will be internal link pages. So what you would do if you are working through this process for any page on your site is the internal link page here would be, or a category name would be a more effective title here. So you'd have a category name and a URL. The category name would be whatever the category or product, and you could do this for products or content pages also. And then the URL would be the actual URL. And you can either use a relative URL, which would be, so instead of including your full URL, like site.com/collection/air dryers, like that. This would be a full URL. A relative URL would be /collection/air dryers. And you could do it either way. You just need to make sure how those links are set up on the site. But that's just a little side note. So in this case, we will just use a # or a hashtag as the URL, and this will still show up as a little link, but it won't be effective. It won't mean anything. And then what I'll do is back in the outline here. So here are the keywords and phrases to use. Here are pages to use within the content. These should be added as internal links. Link them contextually as relevant using helpful and optimized anchor text so a visitor can understand the link and go to the new related category page. I am not entirely sure if this is going to work here with these, but we'll see if it does. And if not, then we can make a change. And then the last thing to add here would be, let's add some questions. So again, you can do this a couple of different ways. One would be if you have actual clients and customers in the area or within this category, you probably know questions they may ask. So you can use that. Second option would be to go into a keyword tool and to add questions from here. Third would be to use something like Google, and you type in your key phrase, and then you scroll down to the people also ask section. And this is where you can get a lot of ideas for building these questions into your content. And you can also get ideas for building new content on your site, like a new content page. And some of these would probably not make sense to focus on, but things like what is the PSI, which compressor is best for industrial use. Some of these might be better for an individual page. Like if you wanted to have a best compressor or how much do they cost, you can have that probably on a page. But here's where this gets interesting and more helpful. You click on this down arrow and you click it off and it adds new questions here. And you can just do this with the top one multiple times and it'll add you a bunch of different questions and do this with any of them. And the point here is then we get dozens of questions here that we can use. So then you can just copy these actually. And then include a marked up section, FAQ section, on this page with correct structured data markup and add 5 to 10 FAQs based on this list. They don't have to be these exactly, but related to these. And the purpose of this section is to rank well in organic search to find more customers and also to rank in AI for these questions and similar questions. Oh, it didn't copy it. Okay, so let's test this again. I have it all selected, copy, and it's not working. Oh wait, there it is. It is working. It just moved me up. Here we go. Okay, so we're right here now. So again, some of these probably don't make sense. So you can actually, if you wanted to, and you were doing this, I would recommend spending a little bit more time through here. Who makes Harbor Freight air compressors? Probably don't want that one. And does PSI mean more CFM? That's probably a really good one. How big of an air compressor do I need to run a 1-inch impact? Probably a good one. Who makes industrial air compressors? I don't think you need that one there. What's the best brand? How to size? That's probably a good one. How long do they last? Good one. Difference between industrial air compressor and air breathing. What are the 3 types? What is most common? What's the best compressor of all time? Delete that one. How to choose which one lasts the longest? Are they any good? Kind of a funny question, actually. What's the life expectancy? Some of these are duplicative as well. Which compressor is best for industrial use? What's PSI? How much do they cost? who makes the best? We'll delete that one again. So now we should create this 1500 word article with correct structured data markup. Give me the output in HTML so I can copy paste this into my website. And now we should get a pretty good article that we can paste into NeuRonwriter here and see how we rank comparatively from a content optimization perspective to the other websites in this area. So you can see here also the highest of all competitors is 75. Number one in Google is 40. So again, as I've talked about numerous times, this, just like any metric, is a single metric to look at. This does not mean that if you have a better content score, you're going to rank better. But what it does mean is, generally speaking, if you have a higher content score, your content is better optimized and has more keywords and phrases in there to give you a better chance at ranking for these different keywords and phrases. So while the GPT prompt is running, let's generate an AI title for this and a description here. Industrial air compressor solutions. It's actually pretty good. Air power. I think this is air power and air compressor parts. So you could also just include your brand name here instead if you wanted to. Find industrial air compressor solutions, parts, and air power for industrial applications. We offer air dryers, lubricant, and complete air systems. We'll just keep it like this. But again, this is something that if you were actually your actual brand, you'd have a little bit more information here to go from. So now here is the full HTML output. And this is you can see here, this is the structured data markup of the FAQ section. How much do industrial compressors cost? Pricing ranges from a few $1,000s for basic piston units up to 6 figures and so on. So in this case, then what I'll do is I didn't give us correct title case for some of these, but okay. Let's copy this whole output here and go into NeuRonwriter and see if this works. Go to this little icon here is code, and we paste the HTML code in here, and let's see if this works. Okay, it did. And immediately you can see we're a 92 content score and the top is a 75. So this content here, from an optimization perspective alone, is better than any other website ranking for this term, which is really interesting. Title is 100% optimized, heading 72%. We're in the slightly over the word length, but that's fine. Terms 91%. And you can see now, if I remove my video again, the number of times these different words are used or phrases. And then you go to the headings, same thing. So we have H1, and in the H1, it's very unlikely that we would need to add all of these in there. So getting some of them in there is usually more than enough to rank, especially for the primary keyword or phrase you want to rank for. And then H2s, H3s in here quite a bit as well. Now, here is the other part that is interesting, is if you look at the content itself, you can see this added links to these other, our makeshift categories that we had, air hoses and fittings. So this would actually be a link to that category or that collection on your site. Same thing here, air receiver tank, air dryer, compressor, filters, and lubricants. And I would also title case these. So I would change this to piston, compressors, two-stage choices, whatever. This would be industrial air compressors and so on. And I would update all of these. Now, the one other thing is this added these links in here multiple times. So we have air hoses and fittings, and I'm pretty sure it's down here again. Pneumatic tools in there. Filters and fittings, that might be the same one. So the one other prompt that I would also include in here would be to only use an individual internal link one time per page, because you don't need to have it multiple times. It can actually impact you negatively, especially if you're using varied anchor text, and it also can be confusing about where a crawler on the internet should navigate to and waste crawl budget. You don't want to do that. So I would recommend just using one internal link per page if you're going to do this, something like this. But I would go through and clean all this up, of course, and remove anything that you don't want or don't need. And then this has some additional information in here. I don't know why it lowercased everything, but again, that would be another thing to update in the prompt and or to manually edit. Secondly, thirdly, or fourthly, whatever number I'm on of suggestions would be to remove any of all this text that's randomly bolded. That's a very clear sign that this was AI generated, which if you don't care, that's totally fine. AI content can still rank well, but sometimes these things are just kind of annoying to deal with. So I personally would clean them up. And I don't know why. So the FAQs are marked up correctly, but they're not showing here in the actual content. So I would change that around as well. You know what, let me just do that. Let's just redo the article and include the internal links only one time per. Also include the FAQ section on the front end so visitors can read that text as well. Still ensure it's marked up correctly. Now this should give us another clean output and reduce the internal links, like I said, and make it so that we can still use this effectively for an article here. But I'll see how long this takes to go. And okay, it's going now. But either way, the output here is extremely well done, well optimized, and gives us an awesome chance to not only compete for this term, but we have all of these other ones in here too. And we're also building value to our internal category pages and collection pages, which, as I've said before, internal links, especially on a site like this, if you have product categories or collections, whatever you want to call them, using internal links to link to and share that information better with a search engine makes it easier for you to rank. And internal linking is often one of the most missed opportunities to build rankings quickly, especially for a site like this. So let's go back to the prompt here. And now it is giving us the structured data and the front end of what we're looking for with the FAQs. So that is awesome here. And copy this and go back here and see if this changed our score at all, 92. And see if there's anything added in here that we don't need. We don't need this. And let's see. I don't know if this just duplicated it because it made our word count 3,300. But again, it still shows as within the top 10 of the 4,500. Let me just double check here. And then I'll wrap this up. Yeah, this looks extremely lengthy. So I would definitely clean this up and not include as much content on the page. Although, as I've talked about before, again, you could include a very brief amount of content at the top of the page. So in most cases, I would probably rewrite this to be a little bit more specific about your brand and what's included in this product line or product page or category page. And then underneath your product listings, your product grid, include all of this additional information so that if somebody is interested in reading about it or learning more, they can go there. And if not, they don't have to and they won't even see it. But it gives you a better chance to rank for these dozens or hundreds of additional keywords and makes it easier for you to rank in AI. Hopefully you got some value from that video. If you did, subscribe to my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I plan to continue posting videos like this, sharing how you can implement strategies like these for your B2B industrial manufacturing style website to rank better in organic search, rank better in AI, and generate more revenue from your website. And that's it. I'll see you in the next one.